All season, we've been asking, what if it all works out? And maybe, just maybe, it already is. Maybe working out doesn't mean arriving somewhere shiny and done, okay? With a certificate that says healed hanging on the wall. Maybe it means you're here, aware, growing, asking better questions, being curious, noticing your patterns instead of being swallowed by them, trusting yourself a little more than you did last year. Today on Adjusting, we are wrapping up part 2 of season 3, From Fear to Faith, What If It All Works Out, by talking about the topic adjusting to the in between, permission to be in progress. And a lot of us often wonder and wait for that good thing to happen and wonder how life will be when it all works out. But what if things have worked out and we are living in the prayers that we've prayed? So today, I give you permission to be in progress. And my hope and prayer is that by the end of this episode, you will have the tools to remove the shame, to remove the doubt, to embrace curiosity, embrace the gray, and be the person that you have prayed to become. So sit back, relax, and welcome to Adjusting. And we're back with another episode of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. I just want to say happy birthday to TJ. His birthday was yesterday, but happy birthday. Thank you for being a friend for over 25 years. We go way back. And I pray that this year brings you so much growth, so much adjusting, and so much abundance. You deserve it. Support him, support his podcast. And thank you all. Substack is a little behind right now, but everything should be updated by the time this episode launches. So we will be back on track. This is our season 2 part 2 finale episode, and then we'll go back to like topic based episodes. Next week we're going to talk about adjusting your center, because that has been resonating with me so much. But before we get there, last week I was on a panel with my church member Elizabeth Phillips sponsored a panel discussion about caregivers, and I was on it, and it was beautiful, and I was so happy to mention my podcast on there. And I made some connections, so we're praying for more growth with this platform and with myself. So yeah, that was fun. So let us start with our grounding breath. It is 100 degrees in New York, and I don't have AC in my apartment, so I will be monitoring my sweat and hydrating. So bear with me. Thank you. Now, if you have a moment to center yourself, to give yourself permission to ground yourself for this episode, because this episode, we finna go there. We're going there. We talked about the what if for so long. So now is the time to give yourself permission. Okay. So if you are driving, focus on the road. Speaking of focus on the road, my friend Larissa, who listens to the podcast regularly, if you are in Memphis, her organization Cliff is sponsoring an event very soon. I will definitely be advertising it in the podcast. So once it's official, I will make sure to enter it here, but it's August 6th through the 8th in Memphis. All right, now focus on the road. If you are home or somewhere else that you can ground yourself, I invite you to do so now. Plant your feet flat on the ground. Going to slow down a little bit. Relax your ankles, relax your shins, relax your knees, relax your thighs, relax your hips, relax your stomach, relax your chest, roll your shoulders back, relax your neck, relax your cheeks, your chin, close your eyes, relax your forehead. And we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. Okay? So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it all out. We're going to do one more breath in and out just to get anything else out that might be blocking you. So breathe in and out. All right. So today's episode 18. Can y'all believe this is like episode 53, 54, or 52? I don't know. It's been over 50 episodes and we are still kicking. But today's episode 18, adjusting to the in between. Permission to be in progress. Writing this, I be feeling like sometimes these episodes be turning into like mini sermons. Jesse texts me, he said, you have to start taking up tithes and offerings. Listen, my Cash App is at Justin or J Nelson online if you ever want to send a donation towards his platform. But let me dab because it's hot. But let's start by what it means to be in progress. Now, if you ever go to like a recording studio or you've seen in like those Motown biopics where they have like recording in progress, that means something is happening, and that something that is happening can take time. It takes layering, it takes a team, it takes a process to be in progress. Now, when it comes to mental health and your mental health journey and being in between the there or the here and now, or the past you and your future self, your inner child, your current you, future self, that whole you pyramid that I'm always talking about, being in progress feels like a problem because culture, society, capitalism treats unfinished as broken. It's like a puzzle. The puzzle is in progress. You have the pieces, but it's in progress of being finished. But because it's not done, society says it's broken. It's just in pieces, okay? Think about how we talk about people. She's really got it together. He's so put together. She's really arrived. Those phrases imply that the goal is to arrive somewhere, to be a finished product, like a cake that's done baking. But here's the thing. Here's where we sit with it, because we don't sit with stuff like we need to. Okay, here's the thing. Nothing in nature actually works that way. A tree doesn't apologize for not being fully grown. A caterpillar doesn't rush the cocoon process, okay? But we do this consistently. We rush the process while we are in progress. We apologize for still healing, still figuring out careers, still figuring out our Christian identity, who we are as Christians in a faith setting. People are wrestling with sexuality. It's Pride Month, okay? And people are still, not going to say in the closet, because to me, the closet represents a place of safety, okay? It always has, but society wants people to quote unquote be who they are, but sometimes being who they are puts a red dot on them or some type of sign that says, attack me, you know? And people are still working through old patterns and therapies, still not knowing what we want to be, quote unquote, when we grow up at 35, at 40. Some people don't get their breakthrough until 50. And that apology is culture conditioning, not truth. Somewhere along the way, we absorb the idea that being a work in progress is something to whisper about, almost like a confession, instead of just the human condition. You're human, okay? You don't get the body you want just by waking up and saying, I have the body. It's a process. You don't get to the financial status you want unless you were born into it and it was just handed to you on a silver platter, okay? Everyone doesn't have that luxury. But we rush to feel done because uncertainty feels unsafe, and that's a nervous system thing. I will always, ever since somebody on TikTok introduced me to nervous system, I will always connect something back to the nervous system. It's a nervous system thing. It's not a character flaw. When you are in the messy middle of change, I'm talking about you are shedding old habits, you are doing the work, you are not visiting places that you realize were not serving you to your fullest potential. And someone said that. This was some I saw like literally last night, and she was talking about a potted plant. Okay, and if you know me, I have plants all in my bedroom, and some plants, stay with me, some plants are not made to be indoors. Some people are not made to be in the positions they are because, not because they're not good at it, it's because they are limited in that environment. Oh, sorry, plant. This is fake. This plant is fake behind me, but I can hit it. However, we are sometimes limited in certain environments that stunt our growth. She mentioned that the plant she had was she treated it as a house plant, but her husband planted it outside, and it started to produce flowers. Ask yourself, the place I'm in now, the environment I'm in now, the relationship I'm in now, the creative space I'm in now, am I producing flowers or just a bunch of leaves? Okay? Because if you are not, you need to move. Like I said, we're in the messy middle of change. Your body doesn't always know the difference between this is uncomfortable because it's new or this is dangerous. So you reach for certainty, a label, a final answer, a finished version of yourself because certainty feels like safety even when that certainty is a lie you're telling yourself. The cost? What's the cost? What is the cost of reaching for this level of certainty? You short circuit your growth. It is premature. You haven't even reached your. My brother and I used to watch Dragon Ball Z all the time growing up, and I always loved it because there was always another level of growth. Like the deeper you get in something, the more you grow, and the next level you get to. And Sam would always talk about like Super Saiyan this and Super Saiyan that, and I was just like, sure, whatever. And there's to see these evolutions and these levels of things, it didn't happen automatically. It took time. It took pressure, just like olive oil. We talk about that. I don't even know if this is scripture, but Jacqueline Carr has a song and she talks about how, olives have to be pressed and pressed and pressed in order to get to that richness of olive oil. Now, you can buy cheap, quality olive oil and say, I got it. But when you've had good olive oil, baby, it's no turning back. Okay. Because hold on, let me wipe. Because sometimes like that smoke point, it's a certain thing, but like the silky texture of olive oil with the right type of bread and a nice glass of wine, it just elevates everything. So why would you want to short circuit your progress before you have reached that certain level of who you are meant to be? You can hang around the same people and be like them, And if that's how far you want to go, you do you, boo. But I want better for you, and you should too. Okay, let's get back to this. So you slap a bow on something before it's ready, just to make the discomfort stop. Think about leaving a relationship and immediately needing to define exactly who you are now. I'm the independent one now. I'm done with love for a while. Instead of letting the identity breathe, we're so rushed. We're so rushed. We're so in a hurry to slap a label on something. Cause I'm just doing me, good vibes only. I'm not wasting my time. You are. You're wasting your time in the relationship and outside of the relationship, trying to appease society who doesn't give a damn about you, to be honest. Okay? You're keeping up with the Joneses and they struggling really behind the closed doors. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm done with love for a while. Instead of letting the identity breathe and form slowly on its own time. Now, this shows up everywhere. Okay, this constant need of labeling and this uncertainty shows up everywhere in relationships, in creative work, in healing your daily life. Like those are always the four topics I want to touch on. In relationships, it's the pressure to know within a few weeks whether someone is the one instead of letting connection unfold at its own pace. I'm noticing a trend on a lot of these other podcasts, these relationship podcasts, with women who feel that women and men, now I'm gonna say both, women and men, they put a timeline of expectation when it comes to dating. They say within the first 3 months, I know whether or not this is gonna be forever or not. If in the first 90 days she ain't did this, and this, I ain't wasting my time, because by the end my queen gonna have it together. Well, in the first 90 days, if he don't take me on a trip, or we not doing this, or I ain't he is wasting my time. Who do you think you are? Like, who owes you that in the first 90 days? Hell, it took 9 months to make you. Did you rush your mama to push you out sooner? Like, why are we in a rush? I get it. I get it. Time is valuable. Love is valuable too. Okay, the connection process, the communication, the progress that it takes to move forward and it's valuable. That should be sacred. But because y'all are so quick, yeah, I'm saying y'all because I ain't rushing. Okay, I ain't looking. I'm doing me. But y'all are in a rush to fill a void that y'all created within yourself that you want somebody else to be to blame for it. No, it's you. You the problem. Okay? So sit with that. Instead of letting connection unfold at its own pace, it's also the pressure to present yourself as a finished, healed person on the first date. If somebody I dated came up and said, I'm in therapy, I'm going to say, you the one. You the one because you are actively doing the work. Now, don't be fooled, because some of y'all go to therapy to get validation for your piss poor behavior, and your therapy is not smart. Your therapist is not smart enough to call you out on it. Instead, they're going to take your money and say, I'll see you next week. Okay, that's a problem, because especially y'all narcissists out there, y'all not listening to this episode, but the narcissists out there go to feel good for their behavior and say, well, they think I'm crazy because you are. But your therapist by law, they probably won't tell you you're crazy, but they're making a note of it. I'm pretty sure they're making a note of it. However, I've done all my work. I have no baggage, when really healthy people are still doing the work. And please don't be ashamed for doing the work. Okay. I love having conversations. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing in therapy? Are you doing cognitive behavioral therapy? Are you doing EDMR? Like, what type of therapy is working for you? Let me know. Like, we can have a deep conversation about that. I love that. Health people are still doing the work, just with better tools. In creative work, it's publishing something before it feels finished, because waiting feels unbearable. This is something I dealt with in the bookish space. Like, I felt that if I wasn't posting book reviews every day, or I wasn't reading the latest book as soon as it came out while it was trending, that nobody would value my content and I wouldn't get book deals and da 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 da. And I had to think, like, Justin, why are you reading books? Like, why do you have this collection of books behind you? And I told Ebony, I'm trying to become disgustingly educated. Okay, I want to be so educated that I can walk in any room and say, "Oh yeah, what about that?" And my brother is the king of this. Like, he's knowledgeable. He knows the bare minimum about everything, but is so quick with it that he will fool anybody. And not that he's not capable of knowing. Like, he reads articles and watches documentaries, and he doesn't read like books, but he gets a lot of information. So shout out to him. However, I want to become so disgustingly educated that you just like, yes, Justin, like, tell me more. Like, we can have a conversation about everything. And I love that. But because of social media, you feel a rush to do everything instead of sitting with it. But on the flip side, never publishing at all, because it'll never be ready, which is really just, again, perfectionism wearing a disguise. A lot of people are perfectionists. I'm a perfectionist, and I will tell everybody, listen, I don't like it, so I ain't doing it. I ain't got to a point in my healing journey where I can just tough it out. I'm working on it. Not today, though, okay? However, in healing, it's the myth that one day you'll wake up healed, like it switches itself on and off, instead of understanding healing as something being layered and ongoing, something you keep doing gently for life. Okay. And it's one reason I enjoy reading like historical fiction books and slave narratives. I know, Justin, it's weird. I know, but it's something about reading how we overcame something that gives me joy, and it makes me proud to be black, and it makes me want to honor my ancestors in a more bold way. You know, I'm proud to be black. All right. And I'm proud of the stories that are passed down through these books. And so many banned books talk about us, but because of where we are in the political state, they're being removed and trying to be, taken out of stock. But you won't take it from me, okay? Because these are mine. I own these. All right. So, and in daily life, it shows up in the pressure to have your morning routine locked in, your 5-year plan on your iPad, on your desktop, on your wall, okay, with no room for error. This is what is happening. Your relationship with your body fully healed, your finances fully sorted out, all right now, today. You in your head, you have been conditioned to think you had to have all this planned out today. As if life issues a report card and you're worried about your grade. Homeroom is available. Okay, we can sit and talk about it. We can figure it out. But no one says you had to have all this figured out today. And if someone did, they lied. However, underneath all of that is grief. The grief of identity in transition. You are mourning. Thank you for listening. I'm joking. You are mourning a version of yourself you're leaving behind, even if that transition is good or bad. Even if the old job, the old relationship, the old belief system, the old way you coped was painful, it was familiar. And the new version of you, not even fully formed yet. She doesn't have a name tag. So you're staring at a doorway, not where you were, not yet who you're becoming, but that doorway can feel incredibly lonely. It can feel jarring, isolating. Maybe your old friend group doesn't quite fit anymore. But you haven't found your new people. Maybe your old church community doesn't fit anymore. Like it became too political, too performative, too clicky. We've missed the plot. We've moved so far from ministry that showing up on Sunday is just like attending. It's just like I'm here so I don't get fired. Basically, we've missed ministry. We've missed the Christian experience and replaced it with a performative experience where praise and worship is like a concert. But that is not serving you, okay? And but you haven't found a new spiritual rhythm yet either. That in between, this is what the episode is about, the adjusting to the in between. That in between can feel like you're floating, but the doorway is sacred. That's where the real growth happened. No one talks about how much grief is wrapped up in growth. But it's there and it's allowed to be there. So let's talk about where this pressure to be finished often started, because a lot of us, it's rooted in childhood. You knew I was going to, y'all knew I was going to talk about this. If you grew up in a home where love for approval felt conditional, where you were praised for being easy, mature for your age, no trouble at all, okay? You may have learned very early that being a work in progress wasn't safe. Maybe your big feelings were too much for adults around you, so you learned to package yourself neatly, finish, fine, figured out. A lot of kids weren't able to be kids because their parents didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with it. They were too stressed about the bills and work and other stuff, and probably being caregivers and so many things, that their kids were neglected and given this false sense of responsibility to be perfect when they were just kids. So don't be around here crying, making all this noise. I'm tired. Well, shit. What you? I ain't asked to be here, and now I'm here. I'm being punished. I'm being censored. Like, who? I ain't signed up for that. So if you are a parent, give your child some grace to be a kid. Make mistakes, write on the wall. You can get some paint to cover it up. I won't say destroy furniture because I didn't realize how expensive furniture was. Like this couch, I'm still paying for this thing. Okay, it's expensive. That's why I ain't got a new chair. I got this chair off the street, and I won't be replacing it until it falls apart. I get it. I get it now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if that was your survival strategy as a kid, of course, it's hard to unlearn as an adult. I don't think people realize how hard it is to truly unpack childhood trauma and childhood abandonment and childhood wounds. Like, I see why a lot of adults still act childish, and it's not honoring their inner child, it's just them being kids in adult bodies. And of course, it feels vulnerable to say, I don't have it figured out yet. That sentence might have felt dangerous once. It isn't anymore. Okay. But your body might need a little convincing, a little time, a little patience, a little grace. Here's where it comes to faith. Okay. Because I'm in this like spiritual moment. Like I'm craving more conversations about Christianity, the Bible, spirituality as it relates to African diaspora and the hoodoo culture. Like I want that because in my head, in my world, it all works together. So a lot of us were taught that doubt is the opposite of faith, that questions means you're backsliding, that a good Christian or a good anything has it all figured out. It has the doctrine settled, has the answers. What if questions are actually part of the process and not a detour from it? What if I'm still working this out is one of the most honest, faithful things you say. Therapy and faith aren't enemies, okay? You can go to church and have therapy, all right? And neither one requires you to be finished to belong. So let's move on to section 2, adjusting. Start noticing. Start noticing when you're holding yourself to a finished version of you that doesn't actually exist. This might sound like I should be over this by now. Or why do I still struggle with this after all this therapy? Or other people my age have this figured out. Those thoughts are clues. They're not facts, okay? They're cognitive distortions. We talked about this if you go back to top of season 3. Cognitive distortions whispering that there's a finish line you're falling behind on. This is the should voice we've talked about all season, okay? The one that loves comparison and timelines that were never yours to begin with. Next time you catch yourself with one of these thoughts, try gently saying or asking yourself, compared to what version of me exactly? Where did I get this timeline? Who decided that? I know for me, I told myself I should have been on Broadway a long time ago by now. I've done my work. I can't control what they do behind the table. I can't control who they know and what friends of theirs they're wanting to put in. I can't control that. I can only control how I show up and what I do. So I had to remove that thought pattern from my process because I was stressing myself out. Okay, permission. Sorry. Honestly, the answer is you didn't choose that timeline. It was handed to you by a parent, a culture, a church, a highlight reel on social media, something you saw on TikTok. Okay. Now, permission to still be figuring out looks like swapping the question, am I there yet? For, am I moving towards it? That's it. That's it. That's the whole shift. Maybe you're in therapy and you still have hard weeks sometimes. That doesn't mean therapy isn't working. It means you're a person in progress having a hard week. That's it. Maybe you're deconstructing parts of your faith and you don't have it all sorted into neat boxes of this I keep, this I don't. Again, nibble and gorge. That's not a crisis of faith. That's faith expanding into something more honest, more lived in. Maybe you're working on a creative project and it's still rough. I mean, really rough. Still changing shape. That doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's alive. It means it's going through changes. It's going through changes. It's like a creative metamorphosis, if you will, you know? And That doesn't mean permission sounds like I'm allowed to still be working on this, full stop, no asterisk, no apology attached, no nothing. Okay. No, but I should be further along by now, tacked on the end. None of that. Now, self compassion and patience aren't soft, feel good extras. They're literally what makes it possible to keep going without burning out or giving up. Think of self compassion as the thing that lets you fall down without deciding the whole journey was a failure. If you talk to yourself the way you've talked about friends who's struggling, of course this is hard. You're doing something brave. It makes sense. You're tired. You stay in the process. But if you talk to yourself like a drill sergeant, why haven't you fixed this yet? What's wrong with you? You either freeze, shut down, or excuse my language, fuck this shit. You ain't doing it no more. You're done. You quit. Okay. Patience is what lets growth happen in its own timeline instead of the one your anxiety drew up in a napkin at 2 a.m. when you were tossing and turning. Now, let's talk about what self compassion actually sounds like in real time because it's easy to make it abstract. It's not, I'm proud of myself. I've grown so much all that time. Sometimes it's much smaller, okay? Sometimes it's catching yourself mid spiral and saying, okay, this is a hard moment, not a hard life. That's it. It's noticing you reached an old pattern. Maybe you got defensive. Maybe you shut down. Maybe you start people pleasing again. Maybe you using some dopamine mining and you're doing things that are giving you some kick of dopamine and just like it feels good in the moment, but you know you shouldn't be doing that. Maybe that's, but you cut yourself. Okay, you say, I'm doing the thing again. Delete, delete. I'm doing the thing again. All right. That's not letting yourself off the hook. It's actually how changes stick. Okay, shame makes us hide and repeat. Compassion makes us look and adjust. Last thing, and this lives in your body, friend. That safety isn't a mindset; it's a felt sense. When you've spent years, maybe since childhood, needing to have things figured out to feel safe, maybe because unpredictability at home meant danger or love felt conditional, your nervous system learned that uncertainty equals threat. So when you try to sit in the in between now, your body might respond to tightness or with tightness, restlessness, that itch to do something, to fix something, to always be moving and working on something. You know, you might notice your jaw clench or your chest tight, your mind racing to make a decision just so the discomfort will stop, even if it's the wrong decision. So, what does it feel like when your body starts to trust the in between? It's like a slower exhale. You know, you can really sit and your brain doesn't feel like you have 1,000 tabs open. Maybe it's only 500 tabs, you know, maybe your heart rate is a little slower. Not like you're dying, but just like, I don't feel as stressed. Your shoulders are a little lighter, you know? Um, it's being able to say I don't know yet out loud to a friend or a partner or a therapist. It's not it sorry. Okay. It's sitting with an unanswered question for a day, for a week, for a season, and not feeling like the world is ending. That's not nothing. Okay, that's your service system learning slowly that the in between isn't a threat. It's just a room you've allowed to be in. It's a room you're allowed to be in for a while. It's a new safety area. It's like a new safe space for yourself. All right. And one more thing on adjusting, give yourself permission to take up in between with other people too. This might mean telling a friend, I don't actually know what I think about that yet. Can I get back to you? Can I come back when I am rested and I can sit with this a little more? Okay, because you popped this on me. Give me time to let this marinate. All right. So section 3, apply. Now, this here. Listen close to this. If you don't take anything else from this, listen to this. Here are 5 things to carry with you as you give yourself permission to be in progress and how they tie back to everything we talked about this season. Okay. Number 1, the in between isn't a waiting room, it's the actual room. All season, we've talked about living in the gray. Okay. And this gray is in its purest form. I'm talking about like two shades of gray, right? You don't have to get through this part to reach the real life. The becoming, the figuring it out, the not yet is the real life. Okay? It's like a behind the scenes to the real life. Like you can pick and choose what you show people, okay? But you have to be comfortable living in the gray. So many of us spend years treating our current chapter like a hallway. Once I get this job, once I get this money, for me, once I get this new computer, once I'm done with therapy and I figure out my faith and I find the relationship, then my real life starts. This is your real life. Okay, this room, this space, this moment we're having right now is your real life. Stop standing by the door with your coat on, sit down, move a little bit, have some tea, live here for a while because here is actually where you are. Some of y'all are living in the future and getting upset because it's not happening right now. You have to learn and be comfortable to live in the moment, live in the now, live in the gray. Number two, your intuition doesn't need to be finished to be trustworthy. Remember when we talked about fear versus intuition earlier this season? Fear says you can't trust yourself until you've got it all figured out. You're too messy right now. You're too unfinished. You're too unsure. I don't have the money. I don't have this, that, and the other. Intuition says something completely different. You already know more than you think, even mid becoming, especially mid becoming. You don't need a finished identity to make a good decision today because you don't have to have arrived to know that this relationship feels wonky. It feels off. The red flags are glistening, okay? There is glitter in the sauce. Or that this opportunity feels right, or that you need rest, or that you need to speak up. You just need to listen to yourself, not others, to yourself. And the in between version of you is just as worthy of being listened to as the finished version you're waiting to become. Number three, curiosity is the antidote to the shame of not being done yet. My friend Sherrod, not someone, my friend Sherrod and I were talking about, Justin, what keeps you going? How do you manage your podcast and your vegan stuff and the book content and still auditioning and working 3 jobs and working at your church and creating more stuff? Curiosity. I'm a curious person, okay? And part of that is childhood trauma because I stayed in the house a lot. However, my curiosity has gotten me into places that has benefited my future self and my current me. All right? Now, as it relates to this conversation, instead of asking, why am I still like this or why haven't I gotten over this, ask, why is this still here and what is it trying to show me? We're entering Mercury retrograde. A lot of y'all are not astrologically savvy, so let me just make it easy for you. Mercury retrograde means in my head to revisit, revise, replan, restructure. It's like a revisiting of old things that hasn't really healed or not healed, old things that hasn't finished. Like there might be a project or something you really need to revisit and just like, okay, let me revisit this now based off the experiences I've happened over the past 3 months, or sometimes depending on where this retrograde happens in your chart, it could be the past 6 years, okay? Because of chart placement. That's a whole, I'm gonna bring astrologists on here so we can talk about that. But as it relates to curiosity, what is he trying to show me? That tiny shift from judgment to curiosity turns the in-between from a place of shame into a place of discovery. Okay. This season, curiosity has been your flashlight. It has been shining light on things and topics and places, dark places in your life that you just like, well, let me just be more curious about this. Now, when I say curiosity, I mean about positive things and healthy things. I'm not saying go try drugs. I ain't never that curious, okay? Curiosity to understand, to learn more. Like I said, I want to be disgustingly educated. Okay, I want to learn everything. I want to be curious about, I want to talk about the dinosaurs and like what really happened to them. I want to be curious about the Bible and why Noah's Ark didn't have a steering shift, but yet they made it safely. And like, was the intention just to float? for 40 days and 40 nights? Or was there a destination in mind? Like, that is where my curiosity lives. Not, what does cocaine taste like? I don't give a damn. That would never be my curiosity, okay? But no shade to those who have tried it and lived. Good for you. Tell me about it. Like I said, this season, curiosity has been your flashlight, the thing that helped you look at fear without flinching, that helped you notice your patterns without spiraling into self-blame. Keep that flashlight as you head into whatever's next, okay? Curiosity doesn't require you to have answers. It just requires you to stay interested in your story. To me, curiosity is your way of honoring your inner child. It gives you that childlike sense of freedom and exploration to just be, to make mistakes, to live in the gray, to explore and say, oh, I didn't die. I don't want to do that again, but I didn't die. And I can say I did it. Okay. Number 4, small steps are still steps. Fight me, okay? Even when no one's clapping for them. We talked about how growth often looks invisible from the outside. Therapy, homework, and a boundary you even held through your voice shook, a thought you caught and redirected before it spiraled into a full afternoon of anxiety, a conversation you didn't avoid even though you wanted to. Someone throws a party and someone throws you a party for I didn't catastrophize today, or send an email I have been avoiding for 3 weeks, but that's the work. That's the becoming. Progress doesn't need an audience to be real. It doesn't need to be big to count. If you've tempted to dismiss your small steps, if you're tempted to dismiss your small steps because you don't feel like enough, I want you to picture them stacking quietly, steadily into the life you're building. Listening to this episode or any other episode is that small step that you've been needing to really make the adjustments for the life you deserve. That is my whole purpose for this podcast. I want people to stop living small, but don't ignore the small steps. All right, live big while taking the small steps. And number 5, what if it all working out doesn't look like a finish line? What if it looks like this right now? What if it's already all working out right now? What if you are in that new life you've waited for, but because you are too stubborn to stop thinking with an old mind, you are still lost in the past? This is the one, my friend, the question that's been on the heartbeat of the whole season. All season, we've been asking, what if it all works out? And maybe, just maybe, it already is. Maybe working out doesn't mean arriving somewhere shiny and done, okay? With a certificate that says healed hanging on the wall. Maybe it means you're here, aware, growing, asking better questions, being curious, noticing your patterns instead of being swallowed by them, trusting yourself a little more than you did last year, than you did last week, than you did yesterday. That might be the actual prize. That might be it all working out. Quieter than you expected. Everything doesn't need to be grand. You don't need to throw a party for everything. Okay? But I want you to stop and celebrate it. But it doesn't need to be big. It can be private. It can be you just sitting in a tub saying, I did it. I arrived. I am here. All right? Yes, there is still work to do. There will always be work to do. But we have to slow down and honor the work we have done. So I thank you for listening to these last 6 episodes, because they have been a personal testimony of mine. I have been in a stuck place, okay? I've been trying to figure out, like, what if it all works out? And how do I make sense of all these things I'm working on? And God said, you're doing it. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. As long as it makes sense to Justin G. Nelson, that is fine. People say, how do you do all this? I don't know, but I'm doing it. Okay, and when I figured it out, I'll let you know. But until next time, keep adjusting, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.